Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just to let everyone know, today we are recording the session so we can send it out to those afterwards who registered but were unable to attend. My name is Hallie Jones. I'm the project sourcing manager here at the Wisconsin School of Business for all of our Capstone projects, both at the master's and undergraduate level. Joining me today is also Natalie Norton. She's helping kind of facilitate the webinar today, and she'll be monitoring the Q&A towards the end with me as well. We also have three wonderful returning sponsors joining us today, which is the whole premise of our webinar today. It is the sponsor experience webinar. They're here to share what it is like to sponsor a project, specifically a capstone semester-long project with our analytics students. And so we're going to have them introduce themselves. Adrian, I'll start with you. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll just go through Sarah and Max.
Sure thing. Adrian Crawford. I lead our global forecasting function for AGCO Corporation, and I have been involved with this program over the past 3 years, and it's been a pleasure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Lockman. I've led analytics teams and data science teams at places like Ipsos, Deloitte, and what is now Circana. Currently out looking for my next senior analytics role. I've been a part of the Capstone here at Wisconsin for the past 3 years.
Max Lord. I'm currently the pricing and programming manager at CNH on the construction side. Prior to that, I was with the capital side of CNH for 7 years in various analytical functions, and I had 13 years as a statistician for the USDA. We've sponsored capstone projects for the last 2 years.
Great. Thank you so much for those introductions. We have 30 minutes with our sponsors today to do this panel webinar. So we're going to jump right into questions. Now, if you do have questions as attendees of the panel, go ahead and pop them into the Q&A. We'll address those towards the end of our 30 minutes together. But I'm going to start off with a question for Sarah. Sarah, what expectations, if any, did you have for the analytics capstone the first time you participated? And how was it either different or the same than what you expected?
Oh, that's a great question. I think starting out definitely had expectations, just giving students real world data to work with, which is super exciting, but also a challenge because sometimes students can be so used to textbook data formulated to find an answer. They get a little bit frazzled by working with real data. I think the expectations, I think there was a lot more exposure to real world examples. I think the consulting boot camp that the students go in is fantastic and really sets them up for what they'll be doing in the capstone and gives them kind of a jump start. So they're not coming in cold, never having worked or heard consulting concepts or worked with real data before.
Yes. Adrian, how about you? How were your
Yeah.
expectations in alignment with what really actually happened?
Well, I'd had experiences in other engagements where the expectations were very much like you're going to give students a project, they're going to go away, you might talk to a mid-semester, and then you get something out at the end. And I was really pleased to find that this was a different experience. I mean, we have weekly interactions with the students. It was much more of a partnership where, we give an initial project, but as they discover things or we want to evolve in what they're looking at, it became, much more of a collaboration. And I think that that was a good experience for the students. And it was also a really great experience for us too. Having the opportunity for people on my team to get to be mentors and coaches and collaborators with the students was a really awesome experience that I didn't expect, but I have been thrilled to continue to have.
That's awesome. Max?
When we came into it the first time, we really didn't have any expectations of it. It was more, here's a data set, let's see what we can get out of it on there. But it has been nice really working with a talented group of students there. They did produce good work both times for us, and to to Adrian's point, I think the weekly meetings were very helpful in moving the project along every time because you don't want the students to just go away and then show up at the end with something that's going to catch everybody by surprise. So those weekly meetings were very helpful for us.
Great. So the next question I have kind of leads from that. Adrian, I'll start with you. So obviously, from the first year, you sponsored a capstone into year two, and then even past year two, you learned different ways of doing things that worked better for students and for the capstone. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned that you implemented along the way?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that has helped a lot is to define a project that is like interesting, that has enough meat that it can kind of stand alone, and then it's got a really clear like goal or objective that they can understand and latch onto. It's like, here's the data set, poke around and let's find something. Those ones are maybe, potentially too ambiguous, or you might not know what to expect when they're working through it. I think the other thing that's been really helpful is, encouraging good communication between the students and the ag team that was partnering with them, and really getting everybody to understand their roles and responsibilities within the team so that they're working together as a team versus individual students kind of doing individual parts. And so that
Mm-hmm.
team building aspect, I think the most successful student projects that we've done, we were really able to they helped foster that. And that was a great experience in working with them where everybody got to contribute and bring a special piece forward within the project.
Great. Max?
So, like I said, the first year it was more gave them a big set of data, let them run wild on it. But we had a good kind of business um, collaboration with this. Like I knew what the program was behind the data. I was able to explain that when they had questions, but we didn't really have a good data dictionary or explanation of all the data that we gave them. So we kind of switched that from in the second year. It's like we had a good data set, we had a solid data dictionary for them so that they could understand all that, but we didn't have as much I guess buy-in from the business side that we had the first time. And because I wasn't as familiar with the data or the program that we were working on as some of the business folks were, I think that was something that we were planning to improve on for the next year. So, it's important to have both good set of data and a dictionary for them and good business buy-in at the same time so that when they have those type of questions, we can get the business leaders and those folks involved and getting on the right track earlier.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for sharing that, Max. And Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, I would say very much the same as Adrian and Max, definitely not starting too broad. Possibly the first year we did it, the question was too broad and kind of had the students going off in different directions. I think really tactically just managing the communication. I think sometime what would happen in the first couple of years is the students would save everything up for those weekly meetings that Max was talking about earlier, and opening that up that they can send an email question or things prior to that meeting that I may not be able to answer. We may not be able to answer it right away due to other commitments, but at least we have a heads up and could give a more full answer, or even if we have time, answer it in before the meeting. So that was really helpful to kind of get that preview of the questions that they had or be able to answer along the way so the students aren't stuck.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep. So that's a great segue into my next question, actually. Sarah, so the most helpful thing that you did to keep your projects on track, it sounds like you kind of opened up the communication, not just for that once a
mhm.
week check-in, but throughout the week. Was there one point person, one student only that would check in with you, or did you let all the students like just randomly reach out with emails?
Yeah.
What worked best?
My first year we had 6 different teams, so
Yeah.
that was a big
Forgot about
challenge.
that.
So we had communication coordinators. I think it depends on the construct of the team. Like sometimes there is a person on the one of the students that's more up for asking questions, up for that interaction more than other folks on the team. But certainly, I pitched it as it's an open door, but if you want to funnel questions, so you're not all sending me the same question via email
Mhm.
through one person on the team, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Adrian, how about you? What was the most helpful thing you did to keep your students and your projects on track from week to week?
I think we worked hard at setting goals. So, trying to identify what's a reasonable thing that we need to accomplish. And then the semester goes by really fast. And so at the beginning, you're like, we have infinite time to do all of the analysis and we'll get to all the parts. And then all of a sudden you're getting close to the end. So trying to identify like, we should probably do data exploration for some time and we need to do modeling for some time, but we also need to save a fair chunk of time on working on our conclusions. I saw some teams, they wanted to just do more math, which is great. But communicating about the math and like what insights they would find and making sure that those made sense, like within the context of the business, was equally important in my view in doing like the actual analytics piece. And so I think the focus on the communication and how we can effectively communicate the insights that they found and like what's going to resonate when they make those presentations to other internal stakeholders um, helped the projects be more impactful than just like all of the math and then a tiny bit of presentation kind of thrown together at the end.
Yeah. So what would happen like so if you were to say to students like let's, stop with the modeling and the math and let's go into insights because we're like 3 or 4 weeks from being done with the semester. Were they typically responsive to that? Or was that a challenge for you to get them to sort of move on?
It depends on the team. There was one team in which that was a challenge. Like they kept, and it's, you start getting interesting things that you're finding. You want to keep going. There are always more questions you can answer. I mean, I think that can be difficult. I think like the team that absolutely knocked my socks off this last semester, they were not only willing, but like they asked a lot of questions about that. Like, what makes a good presentation? How can we improve this? A lot of times, in my experience, folks that are maybe they're keen on explaining the data and then the analysis that they did, and then they'll put the insights like at the very end.
Hmm.
And so we talked a lot about flipping that. So we're going to start with what did we find, and then kind of get into how did we do it. And I think that was also a little bit of a challenge, but they sure got the hang of it.
Yeah,
And it turned into a great presentation.
excellent. Max, how about you? How did you keep students on track from week to week?
I don't know. Well, the weekly meetings were good. I don't know if we had to necessarily keep them on track week to week, but doing a dry run presentation, 3 to 4 weeks out before the final one was a big help for both of our groups. The first one, we weren't even planning on it, actually. They showed up for their on-site. We went to lunch, and then afterward, or during lunch, they said, "We have a presentation. Can we run it by you?" Okay, sure. And then when they got the chance to do that, we had some of the business leaders in there, and there were there were some unexpected results there, but that the business leaders pointed out and said, this is where kind of it should be. Take a look at this, this, and this. And they were very receptive to that feedback. And by the time their final presentation came around, it was significantly better, I'd say. And it was showing results that were more in line with what we had expected on there in terms of just the numbers, not necessarily the presentation quality, but the numbers were more accurate, I'd say that way. Because again, with the weekly meetings and having a dry run, we just didn't want any big surprises at the
Hmm.
at the final presentation. I think that helped both groups significantly there.
Yeah. I remember coming with the students when we visited CNH, both this past year and the year before. And I kind of prepped them. I was in a better position to prep the students for you're going to get feedback and you're going to be told that things aren't correct. And it's not, that things aren't correct that you should focus on. It's, responding to that. And to your point, I think they did really well responding to that and addressing those issues before their final presentation. So thanks for coaching them through that, Max. So the next question, Sarah, I'll go back to you on this one. What are some improvements you've noticed in the capstone or with the students and how prepared they are for the capstone since you started working with WSB?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of really good thought put into how the teams are constructed. Sometimes I've had experiences where you have a bunch of the team, there's not a real leader, or it's all people who are quieter and not used to speaking up, which is a bit of a challenge. So I think there's been a lot of improvements in getting that right mix. So you have students on the team that are the vocal ones and are really driving the conversations with the sponsors, which is really great and super helpful.
Yeah. I'll go to you on this question too, Max, but I'll just remind those viewers in the audience, like, so students get to see the project descriptions, like a 3 or 4 sentence description of the project, but they don't get to choose the company they work with. So, of course, we know what company goes with which project description. So the students do have some voice and choice over the projects they get placed on, but we look at their backgrounds, their undergraduate degrees, what classes they're taking in the spring for electives, as well as how they rate, or rank the projects in terms of their interests. And that's how they get placed on teams. But Max, your response to the question about improvements to the capstone or the student experience?
Yeah, what I've noticed in the past few years is how much better the students have got communication wise.
Mm.
And that's kind of the feedback I've given the program every year. Is the presentation skills have always been very good at the end, but communication is a lot more than just your final presentation out in the real world. It's how you're going to conduct yourselves with coworkers, how are you going to email and message folks appropriately throughout that. And I think both of our groups did that well in different ways. My second group was a lot quieter, but than the first group, but they were both, it was easy to understand what they wanted, and we encouraged them to ask questions and to, you're not expected to know all of this stuff right away. I don't know all this stuff right away either. So it's important for that to still come out about them, and just that intellectual curiosity is always very helpful.
Yeah. And all three of you have been instrumental in helping us, make changes to the program, guide the program, make improvements to, what we're teaching the students and how we prep them for the capstone. You're all members of our analytics affiliates group. And I know that feedback, that you've given to Cody as he's developing and updating curriculum has been, vital to why it's as good as it is today. And really, for those who might be in the audience considering the undergraduate capstone, we have very similar, mechanisms in place where, students meet with sponsors weekly, and we ask for feedback from sponsors, to improve. Communication's always going to be a focus here at the business school, making sure that not only do the students understand, what the business question is and how they're going to solve that problem for the client, but also how they're going to explain it and put it into terms that the business cares about and wants to understand better. So that's always going to be a focus here. Thanks for helping us lean into that as well. It's about 20 minutes in, and I want to save time for questions. So I do have one question that I would like to pitch back to Adrian, and I'd love to have Max and Sarah answer it as well. But you have a lot of demands on your job and in your life, right? So how important is participating in this capstone to you? I know you have a lot of other commitments that you probably say no to, but yet you say yes to this. Why is it important and why do you continue to do it?
Yeah, I love having this as an opportunity. It's rewarding to get to have an influence on people who are interested in analytics and want to grow that as a career path, and to be able to not just do projects with them, but there have been situations where, I've had mentorship that's extended past the end of the program with students. And, we've hired students into the company, and I've gotten to see them grow in their career and, get promotions and become like high potential successful talent within the company. Like it's super satisfying. I think it's also great from my internal teams, in terms of opportunities for them to develop, for somebody who's maybe just been an individual contributor at like a technical level. This is a low stakes way for them to get some experience with people leadership. And so from their development as well, this is also a really great opportunity. So it's fun. The students are engaged, they're enthusiastic, it's a pleasure to get to work with the university too. And it kind of gives you renewed energy, from kind of the regular day to day.
Great. Max, do you have anything to add there?
I think giving back is a big reason why we started with it. To Adrian's point about getting that people leadership experience, I right now I'm a people manager, but I didn't have that before about a month ago. So having this sort of experience leading these small groups, I think has been beneficial to at least to me personally. But another thing is I want to see what the I guess the current generation is learning right now. And so like what are the kind of people that we're going to be hiring into our companies in the next few years? What are they actually learning? What are their skills and all there? So if we need to tweak things that we're doing, we've got some systems that have been around for years and old ways of doing things. So it's like just getting that fresh perspective on things is helpful for us too.
Great points. Thanks, Max. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I would agree. I was thinking the same thing about fresh perspective that Max just mentioned. We get so mired in the day to day and some of the more mundane aspects that it's hard to think of new approaches. And with the projects that I've done with the students, it's usually something that's like R&D, like what do we how can we do this better? And just seeing them, the wheels turn and them getting excited, really ignites my passion for what we do in data science and analytics. And I think it's so important that the next generation of analytics practitioners have those soft skills, and this really gives them the chance to develop those as well. So wanting to support that, but it really, to what Adrian and Max were saying, it really re-energizes me as well to just see the different perspectives and see young people excited about excited about what they can do with their careers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for all those wonderful answers. We're going to go now to the Q&A. So go ahead and feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. I'll start with that. So the first one, and any of you can answer these. So if you unmute, I'll call on you. So do you have some examples of projects that have worked better and gleaned more useful information than others? So among the three of you, you've got probably 8 or so projects among you. Are there some projects that have worked better or gleaned more useful information than others? Let's see. Adrian, you want to answer that one?
Sure. So I think some of our more successful projects, we've had a couple around forecasting, and those have been a successful project because it's got different components. I mean, you've got a solid math component of we need to make a prediction, so you got to build a model.
Mhm.
But with that, there's also an inherent or inbuilt like visualization component. So maybe if somebody isn't like super deep on the modeling front, they can still make a really meaningful contribution by having that visualization component. And then the other thing that's really nice about that one is there's a right or wrong answer. You can go back in the past and you can say, how accurate was this model? It's a really clear KPI in order to measure your success. And so I think that kind of straightforwardness has lent that type of project to be successful.
Great, thank you. Any additions to that answer, Sarah, Max?
Yeah, I think definitely having an outcome in mind, like we were talking about earlier in the webinar, if it's hard for students if it's just here's a bunch of data, go figure something out. So when you talk about having that income, that outcome in mind, that always works. That always works more successfully.
Okay, great, thanks. So one other question that came in, what role does faculty play in the semester? So if there are issues, do they get involved and how do they get involved? Or in your experience, have they had to get involved? I guess maybe is a good question.
Yeah, I haven't really had too many issues where the faculty has been involved. Really, they're there more as like a touch point. Definitely the mid semester check-in is helpful, checking in like how things are going. But on the flip side, I know if there's any issues, just an email to anyone involved is going to get a response and quick action. But I do like that we have love to coordinate with the students ourselves, but we do have that kind of safety net of if something does go sideways or there's a particular issue, it's really an open door to get the faculty involved.
Good. Max?
I mean, we haven't had any issues requiring faculty to get involved on there. I think having one or two brief check-ins there is helpful to just help gauge their progress. So it's not, you get to the end and that's all your final grade is based on. So giving the faculty some insight that way throughout the semester instead of just at the end through the survey is good.
Yeah. Adrian, do you have something to add there too?
Yeah, I think there was one project that we had. We were trying to do yield prediction and modeling based on interpolation of like a limited set of data points. So what would happen in between the points that were measured. And we wanted to try something that was pretty cutting edge and a little like, tricky. And so I think it was helpful to have the faculty as support to give other ideas about how to approach the problem that we also weren't thinking about and help guide the students on options for how they could approach that. But overall, it's everyone's great at communication, very supportive, and interested in learning about what we're doing and being supportive, which I think is great.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sarah, Max, and Adrian. Thank you to all of our attendees as well for logging on to learn more about what it's like to sponsor a capstone project. As I alluded to earlier, we do capstone experiences both at the master's level with our MSBA program, and this is the program that these three sponsors have participated in the past. We also do them at the undergraduate level, and so there's opportunities to participate at both levels. If you have further questions, please reach out to myself or Natalie Norton. We can type our emails in the chat, but you can also expect to receive a follow-up email from us with a recording of this session so you can share it with other colleagues in your company. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at a future event where we connect. Bye.